Well, here we are, the great ancient city of Ephesus, and where we find ourselves at present is an ancient library that was constructed a few hundred years after the writing of the New Testament. But it gives you some idea of the magnificence of this city. Curious as well, just above us, there is an inscription over the library that says, "Caesar is never wrong." And so no matter where you happen to be in the day, Caesar was always literally above you, and he was ruling and reigning as a king and as a god and as a lord. And the city of Ephesus in its day was a very, very large city, one of the three largest cities in the nation at its time, and it was the leading city of Asia Minor. Perhaps 250,000 people lived here. This is one of the most significant archaeological excavations of this period of history on the earth. There's really nothing that matches it in majesty. And if you can conceive of it, only 10 to 15% perhaps of the entire city has actually been excavated. So work has been going on for decades and it will continue. In its day as well, this was a very important city because just around the corner and down the hill was an ancient harbor where people would come in via boat, lots of commerce and trade, people visiting from other nations. They would then walk up the marble pathways and find themselves at the massive amphitheater that seated some 25,000. And in Acts chapter 19, that is where a riot gathered when Paul came on his third missionary journey, preaching Jesus as God. The city responded with some hearty opposition. As we continue up the marble streets and up to the top of the hill, there is the Agora marketplace where Paul, in all likelihood, did preach and teach because he was a Roman citizen and had the legal right to do so. And as we continue then, they actually excavated in the last few years the ancient city gates. And there's a cross that is on the front of one of the city gates, across from the image of Nike, the god of victory. And so this was a very significant city, and from this place, goods and people and ideas would spread, making this a very important, significant city. And this is part of Paul's plan in his missionary journeys, and we see this in the book of Acts, that as he travels to various places, including, as I said, 3 journeys here to Ephesus, he, for the most part, visited the major cities and bypassed the suburban and rural areas. That is because God loves all people and he loves all places, but cities are of strategic importance because if you reach a city, then the good news of Jesus can ring out from that city. As the people travel, they take the news of Jesus with them. Rodney Stark, Wayne Meeks, early historians of Christian history tell us that early on in the days of Christianity, upwards of 60% of those who lived in major Roman cities were Christian, and the majority, upwards of 90%, who lived in the rural areas were non-Christians. They were pagans, and pagan literally meant the one who lives on the farm. And so early on, Christianity was an urban movement primarily targeting cities. And one of those chief cities was right here, the great city of Ephesus. And from here, we read in Acts 19 that the good news of Jesus rang out through the whole region of Asia Minor, as this was the premier city in Asia Minor in its day. And that included the other locations in Revelation 2 and 3. In Revelation 2 and 3, there are 7 letters that are delivered by John, and they are to 7 churches. And the first of those is a letter to the church at Ephesus, which we will read momentarily in Revelation chapter 2, verses 1 through 7.